Hi, everybody. It's been a while since my last video, but here I am. I hope you're having a good day. Today, I want to talk to you about recognizing and honoring your grief. So, today's mindful love note is about really tuning into your emotions and honoring anything that's coming up for you related to grief. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Um, we are right now experiencing tremendous amounts of grief for many of us, or dealing with supporting people who are experiencing grief in many different ways. And grief is more than just sadness and loss due to death. I'm sure many of you are aware of that. But grief can be very complex. And there can also be symbolic grief, symbolic loss that has nothing to do with the death, but can very much be about loss of power, loss of control, loss of employment, loss of direction. So, all kinds of symbolic losses. And it can be very exhausting. Grief is exhausting. If you think about when, if you've had experience of loss due to death, you know how exhausting that can be. And that exhaustion can feel very similar to any kind of change, any kind of symbolic loss, um, and any kind of loss that may become complex as a result of what's going on right now. So, in many cases, loss can come up, can be triggered from loss experienced many years ago. So, something to be cognizant of. It may not be your present experience, but the present experience may trigger feelings of past losses for you. So, if you're wondering why your emotions are at this time all over the place, there is a reason for that. Not only is this what we're going through quite traumatic for many, but it can bring up feelings of sadness and feelings of grief. And again, the symbolic losses around can be loss of freedom, loss of role, in some cases, loss of connections with people in your life, loss of um, relationships, loss of job roles, loss of being able to move, your loss of um, freedom of movement and travel. So, things to consider and not to minimize. And again, really important to acknowledge your feelings in that and be mindful about how you process and that you are processing those feelings. Very important. Um, so, there are some different models of grief that we are aware of. And Elisabeth Kubler Ross, I think, is her model of grief is most well known. So she demonstrates there are 5 stages of grief. So, stages of denial, anger, bargaining, despair, and acceptance. And so, during this time, during the pandemic, those attributes may show up very differently for you. So, the period of denial is, initially many people were in denial about what was happening, saying things like, this whole thing is exaggerated, I'm not going to listen to the rules, it's just a flu, I'm not going to get sick. So, many, and some still are, and that's okay in that stage of denial. And moving from denial into anger. So, what does anger look like? There was a lot of blame around which country was responsible for the pandemic. A lot of blame and a lot of not really caring about what your city or governing body is saying. or really being angry at what is the guidelines and the rules that began to be put in place by governments. And the next stage of bargaining, it occurs when denial breaks down and we start to acknowledge reality, but we're not really ready to give up the illusion that we still have some sort of control in this situation. And so we start to bargain, well, what if I do this? How about this? It's okay to spend time with others if they wash their hands. It's okay to, it'll be done by Easter or whatever date you set. And, bargaining also includes, people trying to find loopholes in the system so that they can spend time together. So all of that is, really normal thought processes, feelings, and behavior. And then despair and sometimes depression occur when reality finally sets in. And so I think a lot of people are there right now. So the realization that, wow, like this is real. This is our new normal. I can't go to work. I can't earn money. I can't travel to see my loved ones. I can't hug my loved ones. And, depression can set into around thoughts around being high risk. And if you live alone, if you don't have supports in your life, so those fears of even dying alone. Some people are experiencing those. And then despair moves into acceptance. At some level, there's an acceptance and a surrender to, okay, these are the facts. This is what's happening. This is what the government is saying. This is what Health Canada is saying, or whatever governing body is making the decisions in your country. And an acceptance around, I can't control the pandemic, but I can control how I respond to that. And so people are, many are at that stage now, looking at what is it that I can now do in my new normal to embrace, I don't have to like it, but this is my life. And so to embrace, how do I navigate through that in a way that feels really healthy for you as an individual. And so I invite you to mindfully sit with all of those feelings and where you're at with those, and to really honor them. I did a segment around acknowledging feelings. I'm all about being honest with feelings. I'm all about, love and light to yourself, and at any place where you're at, to really recognize and find some peace in that for yourself. So sit with those and, do some deep breathing, do some grounding, and just celebrate the fact that you're a fully feeling, loving, strong individual. That's my mindful love note for today. Namaste.